would ask everyone to please silence your cell phones and please join me for a moment of silence and a pledge to the flag. Thank you. Kelly, could we have roll call, please?
Cheney? Here. Menuda? Here. O'Donnell?
O'Donnell? Okay.
Sassy?
Here.
Sierra? Stiganga? Here. Tortel? Ruskevich?
Here.
7 present, 1 absent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first up, we have Dr. Christine Young, President Orange County Community College, Paul Martland, Vice President Administration and Finance. Request supplemental appropriation of $1,240,000 for new capital projects. These projects were included in the 2021 capital plan as proposed projects numbers 75, 76, 89, and 90. Bonding for one half of the cost, $620,000 is requested at this time. The other half of the funding is to come from the State of New York Capital Construction Fund, $620,000. Bonding, this is legislative request 200. Could I get a motion?
So moved.
I got Sassy and Cheney. Okay. I know Dr. Young had another commitment, wasn't able to be here. She sends her regrets, but we do have Mr. Martland to present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Dr. Young is apologetic for not being able to be here today, but she had a function at the college. As you know, this is a request for bonding for funds that were approved from the 2021 capital plan. We have 4 projects that were approved this year, and I'm going to defer to our Director of Facilities, Corey Dawkins, to give you the details of those 4 projects, and any questions you might have between Corey and I and our associates that are here, we hopefully can answer them for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. All right, my name is Corey Dawkins. I'm the Director of Facilities for Orange County Community College. Today I'm joined by Fred Brenner and George Dusenberry. Fred is our Capital Projects Manager and George is our Facilities Manager. We're seeking bonding approval for 4 projects today. The 4 projects are the updated Facilities Master Plan, the Harriman and Orange Hall ADA lifts, the Physical Education Rooftop HVAC Units Phase 2, and the Orange Hall HVAC air and handler replacements. The first project is the updated Facilities Master Plan. This has an estimated budget of $250,000. Our master plan is updated every 5 to 7 years. The last plan is from January 2015. The college will hire an engineering firm to do assessments and evaluation of the college facilities in both Newburgh and Middletown. The plan will cover buildings and site evaluation to determine additional critical maintenance on roofs, flooring, sidewalks, drainage, and paving. It will also look at additional requirements needed for HVAC systems due to COVID requirements, as well as to support distance learning. Additionally, we will also be looking to increase campus sustainability.
Okay, any questions from legislators on the committee? No. Legislator Menuda, go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks for the presentation last time. With regard to hiring an engineering firm, I don't know if I shared with you, but I know I shared with others when we start doing those types of assessments. There's a rate at the state education level, basically cents per square foot, that we should be looking at those evaluations based upon, so that we, we're understanding that we're within range, I should say. Make sense? Wonderful. And you're going out to RFP with those?
We are.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions? Other legislators? Legislator Stenenge.
Hi, thank you. So the one part of this, your rooftop unit replacement, is a second phase. So my question is, when they did the engineering on that, they didn't do the whole project? Because if I'm looking at this correctly, for that, they actually have a cost associated for the engineering. So when they projected the whole project and they broke it up into phases, wouldn't that have all been covered under the original assessment that they had done?
Okay.
Well, what happened with the first phase of the project, the first phase of,
Oh,
excuse me.
sorry.
With the first phase of the project, it was primarily to cover the gymnasium. That was the first time that we had a real feel of the effect of COVID. The prices that we anticipated doing at least half of the other ones, and we're going to defer the other ones to a later date because of the age of the units. But when we bid out that last project that we did in 2020, the numbers came in astronomically more than what we anticipated. And the contractors, well, the ones that bid on it, the low bid that we had, we were only able to do 6 of the units.
I think you misunderstood what I was asking. When you were looking at the whole project originally,
Right.
and we had discussed this, I think it was last year, right, or the year
Correct.
before when we had done it, there was a cost association with it. We understood that the prices may change because of the COVID and the difference in the upgrade. But when the proposal was put in for this project, prior to it being broken up into different phases, was there engineering work that was done at that point that would have covered the whole project?
No, there wasn't.
Okay,
Well,
so-
it wasn't because of the fact that when the engineers started doing cost estimates on the cost of the units, you got to remember, we request the funding for these projects like 2 years in advance. And the cost of the units went up, the contractors' prices went up, and the engineer did a cost estimate after we got the funding, and we realized that we were going to be short. And, you know, we had to come up with money from other areas just to even get the 6 done that we did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, aye? Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, the second project is the Harriman and Orange Hall ADA lifts. This budget for this project is $190,000. We will be replacing 3 handicap lifts, 1 in Harriman Hall, 2 in Orange Hall. All 3 lifts are aging. They're over 15 years old, and we are experiencing downtime while we await for parts. When down, these lifts hinder ADA access to critical areas of Orange and Harriman Halls. The new lifts will assure ADA accessibility, require less maintenance, and have less downtime for needed repairs.
Okay, questions on this project? I realize we're going to be voting on all these together, so once we have discussion on all of them, then we'll do a vote for all of them. So any questions on that project, Legislator Menuda?
Is there an alternative to a lift? In other words, is there enough room to put in a ramp? That way we don't have to worry about maintenance and those types of mechanical failures?
Not those.
No?
Too many risers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions? Nope, seeing none. Want to move on to the next project?
Okay. The next project is the physical education rooftop HVAC units. This is the Phase 2 process. The estimated budget for this one is $450,000. There are a total of 14 rooftop HVAC units servicing the Physical Education Center. 6 were replaced under Phase 1 in 2020. Phase 2 will replace the remaining 8 units, 4 of which are heating only. The other 4 are both heating and air conditioning, and they're for offices and classrooms. The size of the units range from 5 to 10 tons. Most of the units are 16 to 20 years old and are at or nearing their 20-year life expectancy. We are experiencing leaking and deterioration at the unit curbs and bases. This project will also include updating the smoke detection devices as well as upgrading the BMS functionality.
Okay, questions on that project? Nope, okay.
Okay, the last project is the Orange Hall rooftop units and air handler replacement. The estimated budget for this project is $350,000. We are replacing 2 rooftop heating AC units, which at 30 years old are 10 years past the 20-year life expectancy. The AC unit requires R22 refrigerant, which has been phased out, as everyone knows. The 50-ton acoustical design air handler and condenser, this services the Orange Hall Theater. This was installed 20 years ago. We have difficulty repairing and maintaining the air handler, and there's a safety concern accessing locations of the ductwork.
Okay, questions on that? Okay. Seeing none, that's all. Now we'll vote on all 4. All in favor? Aye? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Okay. All right, passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Rachel Wilson, Director, Youth Bureau. First up, we have a request to accept and appropriate funding from the Friends of Orange County Youth Bureau, a component fund of the Community Foundation of Orange and Sullivan, in the amount of $10,000. Is legislative request number 214. Could I get a motion in a second, please? Senenga, Menuda. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Rachel.
Thank you. This funding is what's going towards the grant that we've had the last few years through the Accelerator and the IDA. It's for the youth workforce preparation that we've been doing, different workshops. So this funding is going towards our consultant that we've brought on for our emergency responder outreach efforts and for different resources we're putting together for schools and workshops for youth.
Okay, questions? Legislator Cheney?
Could you tell us who the consultant is that you hired?
Yes, his name is Jonathan Gomez. He was originally a youth that went through programs that we gave funding to, the Police Youth Coalition through the town of Walk Hill. He then served as an advisory board member. He's currently a police officer. So we had him step down from his role as a board member to hire him as a consultant. He also has a history of being a volunteer firefighter, so he's been helping us with that outreach efforts.
And basically, what's an overview of the scope of work he's been requested to provide?
And his is a small part of the funding overall, but what he's doing right now, he's helping us with our building relationships with all of the local fire and ambulance departments. We've had group meetings. I'm sorry, should I keep going? Sorry. We've had group meetings with the local ambulance and fire departments. So far, that's been without his work. He's just he's adding to our work. He'll be helping to put together packets that we're giving to schools. The school districts, for example, one district might have 3 or 4 local fire and ambulance departments. So we worked over the summer and identified what fire and ambulance departments are within each school district. And we're going to be putting together packets to give every guidance office, a few packets for their guidance counselors to know who to reach out to if any of their youth are interested in volunteering. He's also been helping by reaching out to departments to see who's interested in having teens and young adults come and volunteer in their departments, so we can build that relationship with them directly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions? Okay, seeing none, all question, all in favor, aye? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next up, we have request to accept and appropriate additional funding received from New York State Office of Children and Family Services for the Gun Violence Prevention Program to be allocated to provide youth engagement activities ages 14 to 24 with extended hours and weekends in areas of high gun violence throughout the city of Newburgh. The funding period is 9/1/21 through 3/30/22 as pre-designated by New York State OCFS. $60,000. Legislative request number 215. Could I get a motion in a second, please? Sassy and Menuda. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So this is similar to the same request that I came to last time, which was $90,000 additional funding coming from the state for the City of Middletown programming. They have since reached out to us to let us know that they have $60,000 earmarked to programs in the city of Newburgh. This is for youth who are ages 14 to 24. It's targeting the entire zip code of 12550, which has been identified as being an area with high gun violence.
Okay, questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank
Thank
you.
you all very much. Have a good evening.
You too, thank you. Next up, we have Johanna Poor, County Historian. Request supplemental appropriation for grant funding received from the William G. Pomeroy Foundation in the amount of $1,140 to cover the cost to cast a new historic marker acknowledging the location of the former estate of the landscape architect and leading horticulturalist A.J. Downing, a Newburgh native. This is legislative request number 203. Could I get a motion and a second, please? Menuda Stadenga. Thank you. Go ahead, Johanna.
Yeah, this is a historic marker, and the Pomeroy Foundation is a great organization that about 10 years ago took over the responsibility from New York State to vet all of the information that goes onto historic markers, so that this has been properly researched. We've taken a look at surrogate court records. We were able to get a hold of Andrew Jackson Downing's will, and we were also able to look at maps that the clerk's office had to verify the 11 acres that he owned in Newburgh. So the historic marker will be placed there on the original property.
Okay, questions? Legislator Cheney and then Sassy.
Thank you. And yes, it's a great foundation, and it's been taking advantage, no, I shouldn't say advantage of, but other municipalities have done likewise. This is for the casting only, so there's a post and painting of the post and installation of the post. Who'd be handling that?
It's all being taken care of by a group of volunteers that originated this project. And the city of Newburgh, DPW, will be installing the piece itself.
The post, okay. And then was permission secured from the current property owner?
Yes, the current property owner is on Grant Street in Newburgh and has given written permission.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Legislator Sassy.
Yep, I love these markers. Is this completely covered by the Pomeroy Foundation?
Yes, every aspect of it. So there's no money involved. In fact, there's a Greenway grant that was received earlier that covered all the cost of the research and everything that went into it beforehand. So this is just one. There's even a brochure being made by a Greenway grant. So the entire project, which the historic marker is only one small part of, is all grant covered.
And who starts the research on these designations?
It happens in a lot of different ways. So for instance, in front of our building at the 1841 courthouse, we have a sign there. That was started by Sal Labruna, who you may know here in Goshen. He came into the office one day and said there should be a marker for Claudia Smith. And the same thing happened in Newburgh. A small group of people applied for a Greenway grant. And as part of the Greenway grant program, they said a historic marker would be great, but only municipalities can accept the money to spend on the marker. So they needed a partner, and they asked us to be a partner.
Great, thank
So it
you.
originated with a group of individuals.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up, we have Amanda Dana, Director of Tourism. Request to designate Orange County Tourism as a tourism promotion agency of the county, a requirement to apply for and receive New York State matching funds for 2022. It also authorizes the Tourism Department to administer the funding. No appropriation necessary. This is legislative request number 196. Could I get a motion and a second, please? Stadenga Cheney. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I've come back a couple of years in a row, this is a requirement by the state of New York to participate in the Matching Funds Grant Program. Although last year was a little light, we anticipate next year to be a little higher based on the economic conditions of the state and the county. This is just a formality that they need in place to designate the Orange County Tourism Office as the official TPA, Tourism and Promotion Agency for the state of New York.
Okay, any questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and last but not least, we have Bill Fioravanti, Director of Economic Development, for first update on economic development, and then the monthly IDA update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. Last time I was in front of you, which seemed like it was last week, but I guess maybe just a couple of weeks, I said I was going to keep it quick, and I lied to you, so I'm not going to lie this time. Exactly. So I'm just, this is quick. I'm focused. You have a brief report in front of you. Mostly I'm going to talk about this transition. Friday, the 19th, is my official last day with the county. Obviously a bittersweet day for me. It's been incredible going on 4 years together, and really looking forward to this next chapter. And I'm not going anywhere. You're going to see me again in the same capacity, same frequency, not the same capacity, but the same frequency. So I look forward to that. Really been spending the last couple of weeks, although it's still full steam ahead at the IDA, I'm trying to wrap some things up. The good news is that I was only one person, so I could only do whatever I could actually handle. So it's not like there's 10 persons work for me to transition, but there are a number of balls that I've had in the air. So foreign trade zone is primarily what I'm looking to transition over, because there's a lot of moving parts with that, and that's something we're really trying to ramp up, and I'm kind of disappointed of stepping out of that, because we really besides COVID, we were making some real momentum. But James Booth out of the county executive's office is actually going to be managing those, at least in an interim capacity. He and I've met a couple of times. We're meeting again tomorrow, just starting to really get him up to speed on everything we have, all the irons in the fire, how the program works, what we're doing in terms of marketing and such. So he's going to be taking that over. Again, at least in the short term, we'll see what happens in the long term. Beyond that, I put in my report that Amanda and her team have been willing to take on additional responsibilities. I mean, they've been doing it since day one. I think we've been partners in economic development, obviously since before we came to the county together, but even since then, it's been tough to keep her hands out of economic development, frankly. She's, she tries to help however she can. Just kidding. But so she and her team are preparing themselves to be able to take on whatever's necessary. So I do see that as in an interim capacity, perhaps long term. I'm not really sure what the plans are for the position, given some of the budget constraints and the directions that the county executive may want to take this. So I'm not sure. But again, I'll be done Friday and officially over at the county IDA on Monday. The only other thing I'll talk about economic development-wise was Foster Supply Hospitality. Obviously, I've been reporting monthly on that. We did have the public hearing for the Newburgh IDA for incentives for that project. I thought it went very well in that we had a room full of supporters. People spoke in support of the incentives and of the project, the great hope that people have for that project. Sadly, the only people that spoke in opposition either to the incentives themselves, or really no one opposed the project, because they just, I think you have to be blind or dumb or something to really not see the value, frankly, to be really blunt. But some people opposed either the incentives, how aggressive they were, or the timing of the public hearing. Most IDA public hearings are during the day. That is something that certainly I'm taking from that, but there were a lot of complaints at 1 o'clock on a Thursday. It precludes a lot of residents from coming. So the IDA is actually having a second hearing, or at least they're keeping the public hearing open until this evening, which is their regularly scheduled meeting at 6 o'clock. So they're going to allow people to make comments there as well. But again, most people in support. You just have a couple of electeds who are just against any sort of incentive. So I found it particularly frustrating. There was a lot of emotion. That's what you read about in the paper and the news. One of our electeds, I thought, acted very inappropriately, really way over the top. But I shared my energy level as well in my enthusiasm for the project and trying to equal that, but in a very appropriate way. And I felt great about it. It's a tremendous project. This is an absolute home run for us and for the city of Newburgh. Sometimes you got to save people from themselves, and that's kind of what I feel like we're doing in Newburgh to a degree. But the project is going to happen. I'm confident they're going to get their incentives approved. The Foster Supply folks will be back in front of the planning board and in front of the Architectural Review Commission in the next couple of weeks. We expect them to get approvals. Probably going to spill into January, February, frankly. I think that realistically, that's exactly what it will be, which does mean likely that they will have to request an extension from the county executive. We do have a deadline of the end of this year for this transaction, but they'll seek an extension. That was all part of the original deal. It's written in there that they have so much time to request that. I think that's likely given the timing here. But things have been moving as quickly as possible despite all that, frankly. And I feel terrific about it. I think that incentives will go through. I think they'll gain full approvals, and they'll be breaking ground before you know it. And when we have that ribbon cutting, that's when you'll see all these people that may have said, yay or nay. Well, there won't be enough room behind the ribbon for all of them, frankly. So it's going to be a great victory, I think, that we're all going to claim and be proud of. So I'm excited about that. I'm not going away from that, frankly. My job it's somebody else's IDA, that project, but I'm not letting it go until we're across the finish line, frankly, and we're going to get there for sure. Other than that, with the IDA, really a lot of the same topics I touched on. Staffing, of course, I was hired. We are going to add an admin person in the next couple of weeks to start with helping us round out the staff there. It is in the approved 2022 budget to refill the chief operating officer position. I'm not going to do that until I feel that we're back up to being very busy again, and that's with regular IDA applications that we'd be considering, as well as some other new projects. For example, I see us replicating what we did in Warwick with incentivizing, actually helping to create other properties. Barry, we talked about this in your radio show, helping to prepare other properties for development. We don't have the properties, the repertoire that we had 10 years ago. We really need more sites if we want development to continue. And that's something the IDA has helped with in the past and something I think you'll see continue. Again, when we have projects like that and we have other IDA incentives that we're considering, that's when I'll look to ramp up the staff even further. Wednesday is the next board meeting for the IDA, and I expect them to name new general counsel. We have been without general counsel, except for, I should say, the county attorney stepping in, who's Mr. Chapman and his team have been a tremendous resource and huge help to us through this. But it's going to be great to have someone who's dedicated to this, doesn't have 1,000 other responsibilities, and frankly, someone with even greater IDA expertise is what we're seeing with those that we interviewed. So I'm expecting the board to make a decision on that, and that's another essential part of our team is having local general counsel. We also have received, I think, 5 presentations, proposals, whatever you want to call it, for bond counsel, really the attorney we use for our transactions, for pilots and such. We're reprocuring that as well. Our current attorney is Harris Beach. We're not saying that we're necessarily moving away. They have submitted again, but that's another area that you'll see us pursuing and make a decision there. Finance is one of the last pieces of the puzzle. We let the CFO go back in June because of perceived conflicts with some of the other organizations that were in question, and we've been really kind of outsourcing some bookkeeping, doing whatever we could in-house. So, the 2 people that are on staff, myself and one other, really taking on responsibilities we normally wouldn't. So I'm presenting to the board on Wednesday a number of options, different firms and different ways that we could handle that. There's kind of a CFO for a hire type of arrangement where it's a CPA who does this for other IDAs. We're talking to the Commissioner of Finance for the county. That's the arrangement that we used to have with Joel Kleinman back in the day. And then another CPA firm locally that we've interviewed for this. So we have some other options there. That's one of the other essential pieces of the puzzle, if you ask me. And then just accelerators. I think I talked about this last. I think you'll see us start to unwind some of the programs that we have out there and looking to reassess any of the current programs and any future opportunities. I can't take it off the table that we could look at an accelerator type model again in the future. I just want it to be like everything with the IDA. They have to be smart investments, sustainable investments of our resources. And with the accelerator, I think it needs to be in the right industry sectors where it's worth investing for the types of jobs we can create. I love the apparel manufacturing. My family is tied to that years ago, so I have my own emotional connection, but I just can't rationalize putting the kinds of investment, really the dollars that we have been in that type of sector with the size of companies and the size of jobs and the level of those jobs. It just doesn't make sense and isn't sustainable. And as I told you last time, we reduced our expenses by $2.3 million year to year, going from this year to next year's budget. And mostly that's by downsizing the accelerator, mostly real estate oriented and management expenses with the accelerator. So we're going to save a lot of money doing that. But again, we're not trying to hoard cash. We're doing that so that we can make wise investments in economic development in the future to enable development to happen more. So I couldn't be more excited about that. And again, I think we're putting the right team back together, ethical people like-minded, focused on the county first. And I expect to be reporting some really great things that we can do over the next few years. Here for any questions you have, though, until then.
Okay, any questions for Bill? Legislator Sassy, go ahead.
You ever been up to Johnstown, New York?
Yes, sir.
You have?
I'm from Johnstown, New York.
Wow. No, I heard you on the radio. You did a great job.
all right.
You did a great job today. No, Bill, I just want to say thank you for your service to Orange County. You did a great job, and I wish you all the best for the IDA. I know they're in good hands with you. And I share your philosophy on the foster hospitality. I think it's a great project for Newburgh. It's a shame that elected officials have been slamming it. Those are 3 beautiful buildings, and I think Foster's a great fit for that, and that is a home run for Newburgh. So thank you.
Sir.
Any other questions for Bill? Other committee members? All right, Bill, thank you, and we'll see you
next month.
next month, different capacity.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, with that, our agenda is clear, so I'd look for a motion to adjourn. All right. Thank you.
I mean, that's as good as I can do, I'll tell you that. I'm not getting faster than that. I just talk faster, that's it.